back, ladies and gentlemen. Considered as one of the safest regions in the Emirates, today the firewall of Abu Dhabi was breached by Houthi rebel drone. 3 people, including 2 Indian nationals, were killed and 6 wounded after a drone attack blew up petrol tanks near a major oil storage facility in the United Arab Emirates capital. India too is facing a drone threat from its neighbor, especially when polls are going to take place in 5 states. Top sources have indicated that Pakistan is planning to mount a number of drone sorties across the border to drop IEDs to its terror proxies on Indian soil. The drones will drop ready-to-use IEDs of the kind that was defused in Delhi last week. For more on that, I'm joined by my colleague and executive editor, Internal Security, Nikunj Garg. Thank you very much for joining me, Nikunj. And you've just broken this story of a possible series of IED blasts that might be planned by Pakistan. Last week, yes, we were watchful and possibly a lot to do with luck on our side that the IED in Ghaziabad area was diffused. What is this latest intel that Indian agencies are dealing with, and are drones now going to be a new kind of warfare which Pakistan is going to deploy once again to push terror into India? Would you unmute yourself? I think you are on mute right now. Well, I can't quite hear you, Nikunj. We'll try and reconnect with you, but a new kind of warfare, and Brahma Chellaney joining us, strategic expert, also with us, consulting editor of Times Group, Maruf Raza joining us. Brahma Chellaney, to you first. Do you think this is a change in strategy adopted by Pakistan? Because no longer are you seeing the Jaish-e-Mohammeds or the Lashkar-e-Toibas, but it is drones that have increased their frequency in cross-border deployment in India, and some on-ground support being used, and these IEDs becoming a new menace as far as strategic and security fight against Pakistan is concerned.
Yes, Navika, the rapid proliferation of drones, with China, for example, transferring advanced drone technology to Pakistan, is complicating the ability of India to develop effective countermeasures. Drones were once found only in advanced, well-funded militaries, but now, thanks to the proliferation of drone technology, even rebel groups have drones. What is astonishing is the speed and scale with which the drone technology has developed and spread across the world. It was just 20 years ago that the first successful missile test from a drone was conducted by the US. But now drones have become widely available and are being called weapons of the future. Now, if you look at Pakistan, it's a dysfunctional state with a rogue ISI agency and teaming with state-nurtured terrorists. Non-state actors in Pakistan acquiring Chinese origin or Turkish origin drones with bombs and other munitions that these drones can carry is not just conceivable, but is already happening with state connivance, which explains why in India, from J&K and Punjab to Gujarat, including drones, have had to be neutralized. And it's possible that some or most of these drones were launched by the Pakistan military. But the real challenge comes from the proliferation of low-cost drones that are armed with munitions. These low-cost armed drones are becoming the biggest security challenge in the Middle East and could similarly come to haunt India's security. And I think India needs a counter-drone strategy focused on neutralizing low-cost, small or mid-sized drones, especially those that might be armed with lethal munitions, including air-launched loitering munitions. So we are looking at the rapid proliferation of drone technology, and we need to come up with a effective counter-drone strategy because the existing air defense systems
Absolutely. Counter-drone strategy need of the hour. But let me get in Nikunj Garg, who's just joining us. Nikunj Garg, I want to ask you this question. What are the security experts telling you? Is this a heightened sense of threat that we are facing? You mentioned in your report that elections could be on the radar of our cross-border neighbors, and the fact that drones have become low cost, as Professor Brahma Chellaney said, is this going to be a new threat, and is India working on a counter drone strategy, because we seem to be vulnerable right now?
Well, Navika, yes. Let me first come to the elections part, because that is the most crucial part of the entire report that I have filed. Pakistan ISI's eyes are certainly glued to the large congregations during elections, and precision drone which have the capability of dropping weapons, Pakistan has demonstrated in the past. Last year in June 20 or July 2020, Pakistanis did deliver an attack through the drones, attack ammunition in Air Force, one of the forward area Air Force bases on the line of control. So they have quite clearly shown the capability of ensuring that the drones travel uninterrupted, unimpeded for 15-16 kilometers, and then drop precision ammunition. And imagine if that kind of thing that happens in large political congregation that are likely to be all over the place during the elections, then you can imagine the consequences. However, in this explicit case, what the Pakistanis are doing are completely removing the need for any terror module to look for any explosive material, look for any safe houses to assemble the IEDs, look for any kind of financial wherewithal to buy all these elements. Because what they are doing is they are dropping ready-made IEDs, which have to be just attached with a timer device commonly available in the markets, and the IED is fully assembled and ready to wreak havoc at any place that it is planted. And as you said rightly, we were lucky. Luck was on our side that this IED on Ghazipur and on Delhi's borders fell in the dragnet of the law enforcement, courtesy unenlightened citizen, I would say. Coming back to the last point that you raised, Navika, about India's preparedness, unfortunately, Navika, pumped up by the heavy financial muscle of the companies like Flipkart and companies that are looking to home deliver drone services, drone technology in the world has grown by leaps and bounds. But unfortunately, the anti-drone tech, which has to be necessarily financed by the governments and governments alone, backed by the security agencies, that is, hasn't kept a pace. And that's a crisis the entire world is dealing with. And that is what you saw in one of the, I would say, best developed parts of Asia today, when Abu Dhabi suffered an attack. This is what we have seen in Israel, which has probably the best anti-drone.
Absolutely. And if the Emirates security cordon is broken, Maruf Raza, I want to ask you. Number one, the Ministry of Home Affairs a few months ago came out with a policy where, because of this drone, the BSF's, functioning would go up to 25 kilometers inside borders, especially in border areas. And there was a political furor. And now with this report that Nikunj Garg has filed, it clearly shows that our political elections, our rallies, our congregations are on target, and we don't quite have the anti-drone technology. Where do we go from here, Maruf? How real is this threat, number one? And number two, what are the lessons that we've learned from Abu Dhabi, and how are we going to, look at this and face this entirely new threat that is posed to us in the coming weeks and months?
Well, Navika, there are several dimensions to your question, but it's a very pertinent question. Let me sort of just whittle it down to about 4 or 5 points. One is that we are conscious of the drone threat, but it's sad that we have not attended to it with the kind of urgency that it should have had, particularly when the same intelligence agencies of India, who are now warning us through Nikunj and others that we are waiting for drone attacks and the possibility of that, they had known that Pakistani observers were, along with the Chinese observers, watching the 44-day conflict that took place in the Balkans between Azerbaijan and Armenia, where the better armed Armenian forces were devastated by drones that Azerbaijan's used, and swarm drones, small drones, which are not easily identifiable on radar screen, look like birds, but can play havoc by carrying munitions on tanks, artillery, etc. These drones were largely, from what I know, were provided by Turkey, and Turkey and China are the two big producers of drones today in bulk in terms of small drones, mini drones, nano drones, etc. And both are favorably tilted towards Pakistan. And therefore, Pakistan gets its ideas from those battlefields and its encouragement from these countries who are now giving Pakistan the new set of weapons to create a new discourse in their war on terror. Second point is that there are counter-drone technologies that are available outside of Israel, outside of United States. We tend to be too tilted towards Israel and United States to buy our weapons platforms, but there are European companies that are making pretty simple, not too expensive, counter-drone 360-degree coverage technology to identify and get them. The problem is that we have to quickly do those purchases and not get into this Atmanirbhar Bharat bit and only get DRDO to produce that, because then we will be standing to get hit by the drones. Nikunj is right that these drones come, now the IEDs come totally armed, and anybody who is getting a phone call from across the border can be there at the given point to receive it. These can carry weights of 15 to 25 kgs, which is pretty large amount of explosives to be used in gatherings and create devastation wherever. And so they show that India and the election process is not going to go through as planned. However, there is a way forward. I suggest a two-pronged policy. One is we must make a nationalized declaration of national security. This has to be quickly adopted by the NSA's office, and a warning has to be issued to Pakistan that a drone attack from across the border to India, whatever their denials, will be seen as an act of war. And we will respond with everything in our power to hit back with the kind of force that will be debilitating for Pakistan. Obama did that when he announced a counter-drone policy and said that America will see it as an act of war. I don't see any reason for us to continue to pussyfoot around when it comes to Pakistan and only use drones for reconnaissance as we've done on the LOC. The second thing that we need to do is we need to go in for...
Is it going to be as easy as that, Brahma Chellaney? Last word to you, Brahma Chellaney, just 30 seconds on the show. Do you think it's going to be as easy as Obama's decision?
Well, see, the drones, as we all know, are comparatively cheap and easy to obtain. And it's no surprise that even non-state actors are acquiring drones. So Pakistan will always be in denial. They say that their military establishment wasn't responsible for a drone strike. And we have seen how the Houthi rebel group has previously used drones to attack Saudi energy and transportation infrastructure. So this is not the first time that the Houthi rebels have used drones, but this time they have struck the UAE, which is the first such strike by a rebel group. But I think given the proliferation of drones and given China's connivance with Pakistan and Pakistan's connivance with non-state actors, India, as Maruf rightly points out, needs to have a strategy to effectively counter this new threat. There are technologies available. The real challenge is to have effective countermeasures. Those are not easy to achieve.
Exactly. And how soon will we have these countermeasures in place is something we as a nation will have to push the envelope on. Well, only because I'm short of time, I thank you, Brahma Chellaney and Maruf Raza, for joining me on the Newshour tonight. That's a big challenge coming our way, and latest statement coming in from Abu Dhabi Oil confirms 3 people dead, 2 Indians losing their lives in this drone attack in Abu Dhabi. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the Newshour tonight. Good night, stay safe.